Okay, starting a new parak. We start the parak and we go right into two badav agadata that couldn't have come at a better time. Says the Mishnah, we're going to go see that when you go ahead and you figure out the 2,000 amas, the city, the cities aren't linear necessarily. So let's say your city, something projected out a little more. So you would draw an imaginary line from the highest point, and from there, you would go ahead, you square off the city, and you measure 2 amas from 2,000 amas from that point. So how do you go ahead and extend the boundaries of a city? So basically, bias nichlas bias yoytza. You have a bias that goes in and a bias that goes out, right? Pogam nichlas pogam yoytza. Pogam could be a tower that goes in and a tower that goes out. If they had rooms that were 10 tefachim high, they had rooms that were 10 tefachim high outside the city, right? Vugasharim or bridges, unafashais, or you never see in the graveyards that these buildings built on top of them for some people, right? So, sheyesh behem beis dira, where there's a place where they can live in those in nefesh, or in that not the nefesh, in the bridge. Meitzin es hamid the kenegdon. You extend the chum measuring opposite those the entire city. We'll see this. We'll get into this Bez Hashem eventually. But right now we're trying to run to the Yagadata. And we make it like a square. Make it a square. You look at the pictures there; they should be self-explanatory. Kadishiniscar is obvious, so you gain the corners. If the city is round, you square it off, so you always gain the corners. So,
means like from where you start.
Yeah, where you can start, you're going to start, right. So now, Rav Vishmuel, Chad Tani Ma'arvin with an ayin, the Chad Tani Ma'arvin with an aleph. Mad Tani Ma'arvin with an aleph, Aver. You're extending the city like Aver. You're extending it like a limb. Mad Tani Ma'arvin, Kiisha Ubara, like a pregnant woman. Okay, now since we're discussing the statements of Rav Shmuel, but we didn't know who said what, we continue. Moras HaMachpelah, what's the lashon of HaMachpelah, the double cave? Rav Shmuel, Chadam Shnei Batim Zelif Nemizeh, one inside the other. Chadamar Bayis V'Aliyah Agabav. It's a duplex. It's got a bias and an attic on top. It's doubled in height. El Madiyam is Shnei Batim Zelif Nemizeh. That's not a double. That's a side by side. Is not a double. And so he answers that's shekfulas bezugais. It has double couples, right? Adam, Chava, Avram and Sarah, Yitzchak and Rivka, and Yaakov and Leah. Mamre Kiryat Arba. What is Kiryat Arba? Amrav Yitzchak Kiryat Ha'arba Zugais. Adam, Chava, Avram, Sarah, Yitzchak, Rivka, Yaakov and Leah. It says in Perik Yudalit in Bereshis, Vayihibi Me Amrafel, the name Amrafel, Rabbi Shmuel Chadam and Nimrod. Shemai, his real name is Nimrod. But Lama Nikra Shemai Amrafel, Sha'amar Shvehipel, La'avram, Amar Vehipel. Take the word Amrafel, fellas. It's a contraction of two words. Aleph Memra, to say, and Pil, to throw in. He's the one who said to throw Avram Avinu, B'tayt Kivshan Eish. The Chadam Amrafel, Shemai, his real name was Amrafel. Lama Nikra Shemai Nimrod. He caused everyone to rebel against the Kadosh Baruch Hu. I think he led the rebellion of the Dara Haflaga. So now it's very interesting. Why do we have to know what his name was? Either way, the guy, whether it was called him Ruffle and Nimrod, he wasn't a good guy, right? So are you allowed to name someone Adolf? I would assume not, because Shem Rishayim Yirkov. We say that the name of a Russia is Yirkov. It should be Radid. You don't name after a Russia. No one's naming the kid Bogdan. Right? You have to Chelmaniski Yamach Shemot. So we have to know his real name, guys. This is his real name. Raphael, or his real name Rimrod. In case you want to name your kid either one, you have to know which one you can't name your kid. I don't think it's going to be much of a choice, but okay. Anyway, then in halacha it works out.
So no one can name their kid Tom, right?
Vaita. Anyway, Vayakam Melech Chadash Al Mitzrayim, very famous, right? Vayakam Melech Chadash Al Mitzrayim is Rav Shmuel Chad Omar Chodesh Mamish. It was a new king who the old Paro who knew Yosef died, and this is a new one. No, it's the same king, but he came up with new decrees. It says Vayakam el chadash. Uman diyama shenischatshu. The one says that he came up with new degrees. Say Raisav midaloiksiv vayamas vayimloich. It doesn't say and he died and he crowned a new one. So therefore we assume it was the same one. And therefore the hischatshu says what? The new gezeres. Uman diyama shenischatshu say Raisav haksiv ashal yodes Yosef. Maya shal yodes Yosef. So I did know Yosef. Again, guys, if he was mechadish gezei Yosef, it's the same guy. Why do you mean he don't know Yosef? And for the Gemara is that the Havidami command lo yad lo Yosef klal. He made himself like he didn't know Yosef at all, but obviously what he did. Simin Shmoina Esrei Shnei Masa Lamanu B'David V'Yavin. Amr Yechon Yud Ches Yomim Gedalti Eitzel Reb Oishya Beribi. For 18 days, I learned by Rabbi Rivi. Rivi means the God Lador. I learned for 18 days by Eitzel Rabbi Rivi. I only learned one new thing. The Mishnah Seinu, that our Mishnah, Ketza Ma'arvin Es Arim Ba'alef. That he said you write it with an Aleph, not an Ayin. Ini is it really so? V'Amr Yochanan Yubes Talmidim Hayulei Rabbi Ashaya Beribi. He had 12 Talmidim. V'Yud Ches Yomim Gidalti Meneyam. And Rabbi Yochanan says 18 days I spent among these 12 Talmidim. So not if you leave. I learned the heart of each and every one of them. The chachmas kol echad b'yachad, and I learned the wisdom of each and every one of them. Leiv kol echad b'yachad, the chachmas kol echad b'yachad. So Gamar, but Gemara loy Gamar. So he says kasha. It's a kasha. You see, you learn so much from them. He goes, no. From them I learned Leiv, I learned chachma, but in terms of my own learning of Gemara, that I did not learn from them. So I learned about their greatness. I learned about their hearts. I learned about their minds. But in knowledge, I did not learn. You know what he's saying in other terets? Is minayu didu gamar, minei didei lo gamar. From them I learned, but not from him. I only learned one thing. I learned a lot of things, but I only learned one thing regarding our Mishnah, that it's written with an aleph instead of what? An ayin. We're sitting gekvetched 4 and 4 in an hour. When I learned Torah with him, we're sitting mamish gekvetched. We have 4 imam and am 4 people. So Amar Rabbi said, you know what? That's nothing. We used to sit 6 on one on top of the other. That is kind of difficult to do. Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Shaya Beribi was the greatest in his generation. Rabbi Meir like Rabbi Meir in his generation. We saw an unbelievable Gemara about Rabbi Meir earlier in the Masechta, right? Rabbi Meir, how unbelievably great he was. He went to learn by Rabbi Kiva, and then he went to learn by Rabbi Shmuel. And Rebbe said how great he would have been had he seen Rebbe Meir's face. He only saw his back. So the unbelievable Rebbe Meir, this fantastic Rebbe Meir Balanes. We can see Gemara in Avodah Zarah. This Rebbe Meir, this unbelievable Rebbe Meir. And he says, and Rabbi Shia was like Rebbe Meir, Lo yachlu chaver lam ala soif daitoi. And just like by Rebbe Meir, they weren't able to go ahead and understand the depths of his learning. After Rabbi Shaya lo yachlu chaver lam ala soif daitoi. You see a tremendous Musa Haskell over here. Rabbi, he was not able to understand Rabbi Kiva. He had to go first to Rabbi Shmuel and then go understand Rabbi Kiva. But you see, Rabbi Meir didn't get up. You see how his eyelets to such a greatness that people weren't able to be like him. It's unbelievable how he worked the things. Rabbi Yochanan, Liban shel Rishonim, a very famous Gemara. Liban shel Rishonim kipiska shel heichal. The minds of the earlier Talmidei Chachamim, there was 20 amas, like the opening of the heichal, of the ulam. The later ones, which was 10 amas. We had the first sugya in Amasechta. However, us is Kimoli Nekev Machat Sedakas. Our minds are like a needle, like a needle compared to them. Who would Rishonim that was so fantastic? Great, that's Rabbi Akiva. Achroinim is Rabbi Loza ben Shamua. That's these are Tanoim. Ikadi Ami Rishonim is Rabbi Loza ben Shamua. And the Achronim was Rabbi Shaya Beribi. Anu Kimoli Nekev Machat Tzedakis. Who is that? I'm Rabbiya. Banon, how about us? Kisichta Biguda Lagamra. We're like taking a peg and putting it on a wall. That's how hard it is for us to understand what we learn. Rabbi says, Vanan, Ki Etzbasa Bikira Lisbara. It's like putting a finger into a lump of wax. That's how hard it is for us to understand things. I don't know what we're supposed to say. Ravashi says, Ravashi, Anon ki etzba bebira l'shikra. It's like putting a finger into a pit. That's how easy it is for us to forget what we learned. So the great Tosfos here, guys. Look at this great Tosfos. Ki etzbasa bebira l'shikra. It's like putting your finger in a pit regarding forgetting. Rabbeinu Chananel Goris, not the bira, but the bizri. Bizri are seeds. Pirish, kishaikeya etzboi bizeroinim. If you ever put your finger in seeds, kimar bechardol, uchayotzebai, near a kamay guma. You take, it appears that you put a finger, you had a hole, right? What happens as soon as you pick up the hole, guys? Everything comes falling back, right? Everything comes falling back. And when you remove your finger, everything goes back. Immediately what? It gets what? It gets filled in. When we finish a Masechta, we forget the previous Masechta. The story of the Daf Yomi. We don't even have to finish the Masechta. We can be Mekayim in blood and blood, right? I have written on the side of my Gemara the story of a Daf Yomi. I still remember this. You know, I was learning my Charusa today. We quoted a Gemara, Rabbi Shammai. But you figure you had it a year ago. It was the Daf before. It's unbelievable. It's unless you chaza, it's just
Now we have YouTube.
Still a little promo, Steve.
He gets paid by the click.
I don't know. As soon as he's going to be selling space for Meridian on there.
Steve, I used it this morning. It was very helpful. I chazed it yesterday.
A testimonial, another happy customer. Rabbi, are we going to get to the actual Mishnah? Because I have a question on the Mishnah.
No, in a week.
Oh.
We'll get to the Mishnah today and tomorrow is all I got it though.
Okay.
Relax.
Okay. Today, tomorrow is all I got it. You have nothing to worry about. I'm Rabbi Yehuda Marav. Bnei Yehuda shekpidu al shaynam. Bnei Yehuda, they were very careful the way they spoke. They spoke in a very dignified manner. They retained their Torah. They remained. They gadol shaloyek pidu al shaynam. Bnei gadol who were not makbid and how they used their words. Leiniskaim Torasam biyadam. The Torah was not neskuyim. Read the Gemara. Immediately pay the Talim Milsa. Does have Torah depend upon what? On the way you speak? Ella, what does it mean? Bnei Yehuda did daike lishna. They were very exact in the way they spoke. They chose their words. They were meticulous. Umisnachelu simonim, and therefore they gave mnemonics how to remember the Torah. Niskayim terasa biyad, and the Torah stayed. Bnei Galil, the loy daike lishna. Bnei Galil that was not medayik in lashon, that they were not medayik in lashon. Then v'loy misnachelu simonim. Think of simonim. They were not the Torah. Did not go ahead, right, and stay. It was not there. Let's see Rashi. The second line gets wide, guys. The Daik Lishna. In other words, they paraphrased. They didn't go ahead and say the exact words that the Rebbe said. That's the Medaik B'Lashon. It was passed down generation after generation. They would pass down the same siman. They knew how to leave good simanim. It wasn't forgotten. They were very, very makbid to go ahead and say over. My Rebbe Zatzal said he was Rav Shimon. He did not miss a share in 10 years. And he could tell you every single share, exactly what he said. He didn't miss a share in 10 years. Rav Shimon Shiurim were from the depths of super lumdus. And he said, my Rebbe said, he could tell you every share, and I'll be made an unbelievable Maisa. I could say we were learning in the Dorim, and there's a sugya of Bal Ta'acher, the delaying. Bal Ta'acher, in other words, if you make a Kabbalah, you can't delay. As the regalim come, for example, I'm going to bring a carbon, you have 3 regalim to bring it. If you don't bring the carbon after 3 regalim, you're over on Bal Ta'acher, of delaying your neder, right? There's the Rosh Hashiva in Chavetz Chaim in Radin was the Granat, Hagoyim Rav Naftali Trupp. He's very, very next to the Chavetz Chaim. The Granat, very, very famous sefer, and his most famous share is on Bal Ta'acher the Naziris. And the Gemara in the Durham got to Baldach and the Naziris, and the Rashiva said, I'm going to tell you over the Chiddush that I heard from Rav Naftali. In the Sefer, it says one mashal. I'm going to tell you the mashal that he gave that day, not the one in yeshiva. I'm going to tell you verbatim, he said. I'm going to tell you the mashal. He was so makbid in Lashon. He was so makbid in being exact. And that's why he know Kol Torah Kula. And that's why he know Kol Torah Kula. So it's a Mefamishim before Gemara here in New Gimel, in Eruvin. To be exact, you hear something over from a Rebbe, it should be exactly what they say. Now, in certain cases, certain Rabbeim should not be quoted. Or don't want to be quoted.
Does that include a Malik?
The Inyan of what? Of being as exact as we can is a very, very important thing. Says the Gemara.
Yeah, all right. It's Lewis taxonomy. Because what they're saying, that's exactly Lewis taxonomy. The ability to paraphrase and not just repeat is the next level of knowledge.
Okay, very good. Says the Gemara Vaita. Bnei Yehuda, Domru Michad Rabba. Another way they learned their Torah, if Bnei Yehuda were bigger Bnei Torah, is Gomru Torah Me Rabba. They would go ahead and they stayed with one Rebbe. Niskaim Teres B'Yadam. But they galled Loi Gomru Michad Rabba. They didn't learn from one Rebbe. Loi Niskaim Torah B'Yasad. It didn't say Ravina Amar Bnei Yehuda the Galim Masechta. Rashi brings two pshatim. Rashi says that they either taught it. If you want to know something, you should teach it, or they delved into the matter very much. So we have reasons that Bnei Yehuda were greater than Bnei Galil. They were medagdik in the lashon. They learned from one Rebbe, and they went ahead and they taught it, or they chassid it. They looked into the things. They were golim mesechta. But Bnei Galila, the leikaim mesechta, leimis kaim teras b'yadam. David golim mesechta. David would go ahead. He would teach others. He hayra. Shaul golim mesechta. Shaul was not zaycha. David golim mesechta. Ksiv, it says yirecha. Those who fear you, yiruni. They see me v'yasmachu, and they're happy. Those who fear you see me and they're happy. In other words, David was very, very clear. We had the Gemara in Brachas, how David was malei dam. He was busy Yom V'Layla going ahead and teaching Torah and being involved with it, and he was zeicha that people would see him be happy. It says literally every place he turned, he was scared. They were scared, but we dashin over here that he was wrong. He would be wrong. Yashia lashon of Russia, he'd be wrong because his halacha was not accepted. Just that we go ahead and we digress for a second. The Shaul was responsible for the destruction of Novir Kahanim. He has to go to battle against the Plishtim. He calls up because the Ingdar to a Balas Ov. He calls up Shmuel from the dead. And he asks Shmuel, should he go to battle? Shmuel tells him, go to battle and you're going to die in battle. But don't worry, right? The next day, after you're dead, you'll be with me in the same chelik of Olam Haba. You'll be in the same chelik of Olam Haba that I have. I'll give you a kasha that I had for 10 years, and I got the answer on a Purim. The Gemara tells us when he called up Shmuel, Shmuel says Lo Mehirgestani. We don't find that lashon any place else. Hirgestani means you'd start me from a place from the chasi, and it says Elohim oilim min haaretz, that the Balas Ov said she sees two people coming up. We're told that Shmuel thought he's been called to the Yom Hadin. So he brought Moshe Rabbeinu to testify on his behalf. And that's why it's written plural. Now, why was he testifying? He hadn't been called to the Yom Hadin yet. So how can it say over here, you're going to say in the same mechitza as I am in Olam Haba? If he didn't have a Yom Hadin yet, he's not in a mechitza in Olam Haba.
What did Hobie say?
It's not. I have to answer the kasha. I have a teretz to the kasha. I'm not going to tell you the teretz now. I want you to think about it, guys. Yeah, Shmuel thought he was being called up to the Yom Hadin. I have the he thought he was being called to the Yom Hadin, and that's why he called up Moshe to testify on his behalf. So therefore, how can he tell Shaul, you'll be in the same mechitza Olam Haba as me? He hadn't had a psak din where he is. It's a gavaldig kasha. Fight in Torah Yer Shemayim. You'll have something to talk about in the sukkah. Just got a text message from the person here who knows the answer. Okay, anyway. Says, I'm not sure. I've seen that episode. He's a right. Rav Abba. Says Rav Abba, Yehuda. So said Rav Abba, if someone asked the people of Yehuda who Uzak, ask them the following: Ma'arbim Tanan and Ma'arbim. Is it with an aleph or an ayin? Akus Tanan or Akus? There's a mum by a Bechar. That certain mum. Is it written with an aleph or an ayin? And so Yada, they know the answer. So Shalinu, they asked the people of Yehuda. They told them, it could tani ma'arbin. They also say with an aleph. It could tani ma'arbin. They also say with an ayin. It could tani akus with an aleph. The ikurat the tani akusa with an ayin. But then Yehuda daik lishne. But Yehuda, as we said earlier, they were very medayik in the lashon ma'hi, and they give now. The Gemara goes to gently to give examples of this. How the makman the lashon. Now, who by Yehuda the Amalu? There's a person from Yehuda who said publicly, "Talas yesh li limchar." I have a talas. I have a talis to go ahead and sell. Amalei said to him, "My gavach talischa. What's the color of your talis?" They were from Teaneck, with the 5 towns. So we want to know what the color of the talis was. They didn't figure it was white or black. After all, you know. So my gavach talischa amalu betrodin ali adama. It's the same color as the bead is on the ground. In other words, it's very exact. He didn't leave it. Look at a bead on the ground, you'll know exactly what that color is. When they go to the light lishna, they weren't medayik, they left things up in the air, and therefore they said things that are subject to different interpretation. Mahi, for example, the Hahu Bar Galila, there was this guy from the Galil, from the north, the Amalu, he was walking and saying he was peddling. He was asking, like, who has tickets? Amar Laman, who has an Amar? Who has an Amar? So they said, Amrulay, Galilee Shaita, you fool. Chamar lemirkav? Do you mean an Amar chamar to ride? Or chamra lemishte? Do you mean chamar wine to drink? Amar lemilbish? Do you mean wool to go ahead and wear? Or imar lischase, or sheep? An imar is a sheep to go ahead and slaughter. So in other words, you left it subject like that. The Bnei who was exact. You know what color? Exactly this. And they said something Amar, which can be tied 4 different ways. Another example, Hayisa the boy Lamem Lachavich. She wanted to say to her friend, Toyi the uchle chelba, come eat some fat with me. However, she said Amrullah, she instead of saying shluch bi, which is a friend, she said shloichti, toichlich, and she put the words together, hey oichlich, guys, toichlich. Toichlich means you should be eaten. And she said chelba, and it came out lovya, a lion. So she said, a lion should eat you. You know, they weren't so clear in their speech. Like, you should be eaten up by a lion. Another example of this, how he is Lakami the Dayana, she came in front of a judge. Almost she told the judge, Mari Kiri. She wanted to say with a kuf, which says my master, but she said Mari Kiri, my slave. She called the judge her slave. Tafla, obviously, she wanted to say Tavla, with a vase, which is a tablet. She said Tafla, which is a beam. He said, Aganuf min, they stole you from me. The Koda Avas, and now it was, you're going to hang you on this beam. And Loimati Karich Arach, and your feet won't reach the ground. Let me tell you, that's not a good thing to tell the judge, especially if you're coming. Rashi brings what really they wanted to say and what came out. Now the Gemara, they're discussing language. It's discussing language of Chachma, where you go ramis to certain things. Amasa de Rabbi, the Amma in Rabbi's house, he have a mishtaya bulshan Chachma. So when she wanted to speak in a Chachmadik way, Omru Hachi said the following: Eles nokva bakad, the ladle hits the barrel. In other words, it's empty. The wine barrel's empty. Yidin nishrayan l'kinei, and let the eagles go to the nest. In other words, the wine's out. It's finished, guys. You can go home now. They're telling the Talmidim go home. Because Havi boy the leisman, and he wanted them to stay. Havi Amalu, they would tell them, Yadei baser chaver tamine, a piece of your friend should be removed from her. Remove the staple of a barrel. V'tiskafe elef bekad the ilfa does in maya, and the ladle will float on a full barrel, meaning now the ladle's there to take out more wine. Rabbi Yossi bar Asayin ki avi mishnah b'lashon chachma, he would say, Amar, asli shor, he wanted to say asli shor mishpat b'kur maskin. Prepare for me an axe in judgment on a poor mountain. What he wanted to say was tardin, a shor is a tar, and tardin, which is beets, in mustard. So he said, shor b'mishpat b'tur maskin. So tardin is tar and din. Tradin is tar and din. And mustard, guys, is char dal. Char is like har, and dal is like poor. Char dal. So they mustard, and okay, that was his way of talking. And when he wanted to ask how the innkeeper was, he'd say, Gaver pun dimche, the mouth of this guy is alive. Mazu toiviyesh, what good is there? In other words, he's still alive. Rashi brings the words of shpiza is oish pizeh. Ish pizeh, how's his mouth? Rabbi when he would speak in this language, you make your coals like an esrig. Burn the coals that they should glow like an esrig. Our keel is a havin, spread out the gold ones. Right? Make me two things that can go ahead and tell me if it's dark. That's in other words, two roosters who can discern between the dark and the light. It says, make for them the coals. You should make two things that can tell you the darkness, which of course is what roosters. Only Rabbi Vo. Show us where Rabbi Lo is hiding. So Amalahen, Rabbi Vo said to them, Olatz Benaira, he was happy with a young girl, Aharoinis from the family of Aaron, Aharoinis, the last one, Aaronis, she was a lively one, right? And she was up the whole night with him. So that's where he was. So Amalei Isha, some say Rabbi was referring to a woman that he just remarried, his wife had died, and he remarried, and he stayed up the previous night with his wife. That he just learned Masechta Kachim, guys. That's when Aaron. He learned Masechta Kachim that would speak about Bnei Aaron, which was new to him. And he was Mesameach, like a new wife. Amalei Rabbi Loi, Atzminul of Heichen Rabbi Vo. Now the other way around. He said to Rabbi Loi, where's Rabbi Vo hiding? So when he said, he took an eitzah with the crown, the one who wears the crown. The hin give him Poishes, and he went south from Poishes. The Nasi who wore the crown told him to go to the south to learn from the great Talmidei Chachamim like Mishmi Poishes, who was Mevayish, Bahalacha. We saw him Masech the Brachas. I'm Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya. Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya was known as a tremendous orator. We have him going to Rome all the time and speaking on our behalf. And he says, I was only bested a few times, right? 3 times. Chutz mi Isha, Tinok v'Tinokes. They got my tongue. Isha mahi, what's the case with the Isha? Pamachas nesarachti etzlach sanya achas. I was once by a certain inn. Possibly pool, and they made for me beans. B'yamisha machaltem, I ate the whole thing. L'shiatem klum, I didn't leave over anything. Shniya, the second day, l'shiatem klum, I didn't leave over anything. B'yam shlishi, ekdichos melach, the third day, they put so much salt on it, I couldn't eat it. Kimin shet amti meshachti yadam mehan, I removed my hand from it. So Amalei, the innkeeper, said to me, Rabbi, why aren't you eating? So what did he tell her? He said, Amalei, he said, but you already ate. She goes, Amalei, if you already ate, you shouldn't have washed. You shouldn't have washed. So Amalei, she said, 1 second, Rabbi, maybe you didn't leave over a little bit from the first and the second days, right? You don't leave over a portion in the pot. But in the plate, leave over a little bit. They used to leave over a little bit for the person who would serve them, and you don't leave over for the first 2 times you ate something. So she gave him a little zug, and she was right. Now we have 2 more places where Rabbi Yeshua was speechless. Tinoikis Maihi, what's the case of Tinoikis? Hamachas Hayisim Mahalach B'derech, I was going the way. Boy, said Derech Everes Besada, and I noticed there was a path in the field. But Yisim Mahalach, I started walking on this path. Amali Tinoikis Achas, a young girl said to me, Rabbi, it's a private field. I'm like, what are you talking about? You see that people have walked in it. She goes, Amalei, she told me, listen to people like you, robbers like you, they walked in the field. He had nothing to say. What about Tinoik Mai? What's the case of the Tinoik? I found a Tinoik who was sitting by the fork in the road. I said, which way do we get to the city? Amalei told me, if you go this way, it's short and it's long. If you go this way, it's short and it's long. If you go this way, it's long and short. So I figured the short one, I'm going to take that one. What happened? I got to the city. It didn't take me a long time to get there, but when I got there, I couldn't get there. I couldn't get in because it was surrounded by orchards and gardens. I turned back, and I met the young kid. I said, Bini, you told me it's short. So he said, I said, he goes, well, didn't I tell you it's also long? It was short to get there, but it was long to go around. Right? So what did he do? He didn't get angry. I kissed him on the head. I told him, Ashrechem Yisrael, Shekulchem Chachamim Gadol Matem. Migdolchem Akatamchem, for you great ones, the little ones, you have a bunch of smart people. Okay, we're going to stop over here. I just wanted to tell you, fellas, tomorrow, I don't know what my schedule is like. I'm going to go ahead and record the share. It'll be on the site. The share will be on the site. There'll be no live share tomorrow. As Hashem will reconvene on, might say, I guess 9:30, might say Sunday night, right? What? I figure 9:30. 9:30 on.
Rabbi, can you just tell me when the recording?
I'll let you know.
is there?
I'll let you know.
Okay.
I'll let you know. 9:30 on. So everyone should have a great yontiv. Fellas, put everything by the wayside. You sit in the sukkah. Every single second you sit in the sukkah. Every single second you get a mitzvah. Every single second. You can tell you. It's a little cold. You want to go inside. Sit in the sukkah. Take something you have to drink. Learn something. Every single second is a chance for a mitzvah. It's an unbelievable opportunity. Thank
Thank you, Rabbi Shkaya. Have a good night.
you.
Is it possible that